Right now, something terrible has begun on the front, an assault artillery fire one after another. Drones are making history at this very moment. The Ukrainian armed forces are striking mercilessly. Kupiansk, Orikhiv and Pokrovsk are boiling over. Our forces are managing to crush the enemy epically on all flanks. All of this is covered in our episode Hell Point. Russia's summer offensive is in full swing. Pokrovsk is the epicenter of events. The Ukrainian armed forces are sending parcels to the Russians. Putin's mercenaries can't hide from them. The rumble of revenge, the cannons are beating the desire out of the occupiers to push into Donetsk region. Ukrainian forces continue to hold the front. How they manage to do this when the enemy is literally breathing down their necks, we'll tell you more in the following report.
At high speed and with the rifle at the ready, that's the only way to move near the positions in the Pokrovsk direction, because enemy drones are increasing here every day. We were lucky, and we made it to the soldiers of the 43rd Separate Artillery Brigade without incident. And not empty-handed, but with a gift from the command.
An award from the Ukrainian Navy for military valor. Thank you to the people of Ukraine.
Tea, coffee. It's hard to refuse such an offer in the morning. But the enemy doesn't allow us to get acquainted with the daily life of the artillerymen, launching assaults here dozens of times every day. And that means it's the perfect time to take a look at the equipment these soldiers use to destroy the enemy. The sheer size and the sound of the Pion's engine alone already make an impression. And you still haven't seen the kind of packages it sends to the Russians. This is what a shell from the Pion looks like. The size is truly impressive. It's a 203mm caliber, and in just a few minutes, this shell will be heading toward the occupiers. The shell weighs over 100 kilograms. It takes the effort of several artillerymen to load it. However, this crew has honed their skills so well that, in their hands, it looks easy and effortless.
Gun.
The first one is off, and nearly a dozen more follow. There isn't much time for everything. On average, it takes 10 to 20 seconds to load the shell, and the crew is ready to fire at the enemy again. The Pion crew operates at a range of up to 15 kilometers. The main targets are structures, bunkers, basements, and even mines. All possible hiding places of the Russians. And it doesn't matter how deep the enemy has dug in, a 203mm shell will reach them there. Moreover, despite its massive caliber, this gun is considered quite accurate.
Pretty tight grouping. Pretty tight, especially if the shells are good. From the same batch and haven't been sitting somewhere damp for too long. If we've already zeroed in and hit the target, we can put a few more rounds right there. Exactly. Sometimes we even shoot more accurately, and often more accurately than Western guns.
This time, too, the mission was accomplished successfully. The target was hit, the artillerymen can take a break, but soon the enemy will try to advance again. In a single day, just one crew can fire up to 50 shells, and at the same time, amid the constant thunder of the guns, life goes on in these groves. An example is the story of the Pion's mechanic driver, a soldier with the call sign Lord, who recently rescued a wounded cow, and now she lives here with the guys.
I was walking down the road. I look, and there she was, lying there. I went up to her, tried to take her by the hand, and she let me. And her leg was broken, you know? That's how it was. And now she's recovered a bit.
She's recovered. Are you expecting any additions?
Yes, of course.
But unlike these peaceful creatures in the sky over the Pokrovsk direction, predatory birds, Russian ones, continue to hunt. And they are the main problem for the artillerymen, says the battery commander.
The biggest nuisance are the attack UAVs, FPV drones, and reconnaissance UAVs, the so-called Orlans. When we start working, we always check the sky first.
At least partially, electronic warfare can protect the crews, but there is never enough of it. You can also help the soldiers by donating via the QR code or the card number shown on the screen. Reporting from Donetsk region, Yehor Remaklo, Oleksiy Yevchenko, and Yuri Ostapchuk, FACT, ICTV, United News.
Just this one drone stopped a nighttime assault by an enemy group. It operates under the cover of darkness and silence and strikes the occupiers painfully. They shout Baba Yaga, but no, it's Nemesis, mysterious and full of anger toward the Russians. It operates with precision and completes its missions in a flash. This has left the enemy stunned. More details about the work of the drone operators who have tamed this bird and about the operations that the invaders only whisper about are coming up in the next segment.
The Kramatorsk-Dobropilya highway was considered relatively safe, but the situation has changed. An FPV drone reached here, just 20 kilometers from the front line. We see the wrecked vehicle along the road. We are heading to the crew of Nemesis from the 401th Separate Unmanned Systems Regiment Yastrubi.
The weather is not flyable. It's raining today, so the possibility of taking off is in question. But the crew is gathering anyway.
We're loading the batteries in here. Be sure to take the Starlink with us, the EcoFlow, and ideally have 2 of everything. The BC, the boards themselves, a medical backpack, a large first aid kit, everything you need to equip the BC and such, consumables like ties, tape, all that kind of stuff.
Novan used to fly the Vampire. Now he's mastering a new plane.
Well, you know, it's honestly been a whole year. In fact, in just 10 more days, it'll be exactly a year.
The Nemesis crew consists of 4 people. 2 are the ground team. They go out to the positions. The pilot and the navigator stay at home, working from the computer.
We wait for the task, for instructions on what we need to do, and as soon as we get the task, we immediately start loading up the vehicle. If we need any extra ammunition, well, it all depends on the task. We'll figure out what we have and what we need in order to head out.
During this time, the drivers plan a safe route to reach the position.
There's a fork here, the road goes that way, but it's well traveled.
It's still pouring rain outside, but we're heading out and we'll wait for a window of good weather.
Fabi Poklov, technical backpack Poklov, Serbit Poklov, Batki Poklov.
And now it's time to get acquainted. Nikitosik, that's the man's call sign. He's originally from Luhansk, so he says it's his duty to defend the land in the east.
For me, the war started back in 2014, because I'm from Luhansk region myself, from the city of Severodonetsk. I used to perform in the theater there. I was 18 or 19 years old at the time.
He used to dream of becoming an actor. Now his dream is to survive and take out those who came into his home.
We're doing well with our targets. The guys work very efficiently because they have been flying for a very long time, gaining a lot of valuable experience over the years. This extensive background allows them to handle every situation with skill and confidence. That's why every sortie we make is not only powerful, but also highly effective, as their expertise ensures that each mission is carried out with precision and success.
When the opportunity arises, on a dark night, the drone bomber is prepared for flight. Everything is done in silence, so they can hear enemy FPV drones.
These are little gifts.
The main difficulties for us, of course, are the weather conditions. It's very challenging when there are strong gusts of wind. We don't fly at all when it's raining, but lately it's been happening more and more often.
We make sure of FPV activity, especially when we're equipping our bomber.
Run!
Don't go here. Stop.
The Nemesis UAV is also known as Baba Yaga. That's what the Russians call an entire class of Ukrainian bomber drones, which have different characteristics but all strike terror into the enemy.
Right now, we're currently preparing some more thoughtful and special gifts with great care, because our pilots have already successfully delivered 2. And we're getting 3 more ready.
The young guy really wanted to fight, but for a while they wouldn't take him into the army.
I had some rather serious health restrictions, but I kept insisting, despite everything. And in the end, after some time, they finally accepted me.
Now he carries out everything successfully.
Here, we're all interchangeable. Today I'm on the ground crew, meaning I'm preparing the aircraft.
After preparation, Nemesis is left on its own. It will take off by itself and attack the designated coordinates. And you can also help destroy the enemy by using the QR code you see on your screen. To reach their positions on time, the fighters need reliable vehicles. The guys often repair them at their own expense. Reporting from Donetsk region, Tetiana Demukh, Mikhailo Holovnenko, and Oleksiy Ksandruk. We are Ukraine Marathon, United News.
A fiery raid. GUR special operations have reached a new level. The chicken has finally opened its eyes. A series of strikes. The occupiers came crawling out from every hole. Now that's an appetite. Chasiv Yar and Pokrovsk are suffocating. Our forces are holding out to the last. Kharkiv and Sumy regions are standing strong despite everything. The armed forces of Ukraine are repelling the enemy. How has the front line changed? We'll tell you more about this in the following report.
Ukrainian intelligence has struck again where the enemy least expected it. On May 24th, fighters from the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine carried out a daring attack on an enemy railway convoy in the Zaporizhzhia region. Their target, a train carrying fuel that was traveling along the Verkhny Tokmak-Molokansk-Fedorivka route, was destroyed right while it was in motion. The operators of the strike drones precisely located the convoy and delivered targeted strikes as it was moving. As a result, at least 3 fuel tankers caught fire. Smoke rose into the sky, serving as a signal that enemy logistics are under attack even far from the front line. This raid disrupted the railway supply lines of Russian troops operating in the temporarily occupied territories of Zaporizhzhia region and Crimea. Now the occupiers' route to resources has become not only longer, but also more dangerous. Meanwhile, recent days on Ukraine's eastern front have been marked by a sharp escalation in combat activity from both Russia and the Ukrainian defense forces. Russian troops are conducting offensive operations simultaneously in several directions, but are encountering strong resistance, improved defenses, and high-tech counterstrikes. For their part, Ukrainian forces continue to deliver targeted strikes using drones and artillery with such effectiveness that the enemy is forced to change its tactics. In the Kursk direction, enemy positions are being destroyed without infantry losses. Combat drone pilots from the State Border Guard Service unit in the Kursk direction carried out a series of strikes on enemy targets. A cargo truck, 2 telecommunications towers, artillery positions, drone launch pads, bunkers, and shelters were destroyed. Targeted drone attacks demonstrate a new level of effectiveness for border aviation deep in the enemy's rear. In the Sumy region, the situation is as follows. The gray zone is expanding under the strikes of glide bombs. In the Sumy direction, the intensity of airstrikes from Russia is increasing. Glide bombs are systematically destroying border villages, turning them into gray zones from which Ukrainian units are forced to withdraw. The main nature of the assaults remains unchanged. Small groups, often on motorcycles or ATVs, operate without the support of heavy equipment due to the swampy and forested terrain. However, the widespread use of attack drones, especially those controlled via fiber optics, complicates the defense and causes casualties among the civilian population. In the Pokrovsk direction, active advancement of Russian assault groups is being observed. In the Russian direction, enemy activity is intensifying. The number of FPV drones has increased significantly, with some penetrating as far as 15 kilometers behind Ukrainian lines. The enemy attacks in waves of 1 or 2 people at a time, especially at night, using anti-thermal imaging equipment. Geolocation materials confirm the recent advance of Russian forces in the area of Malinivka. Fighting is also ongoing in the areas of Myrne, Yelizavetivka, Shevchenko-Pershi, and Zvirie. Overall, the situation in the Pokrovsk direction is extremely difficult, but the defense forces are holding this sector. In the Vovchansk direction, constant attacks are taking place in urban areas. In the areas around Vovchansk, Russian troops try to break through every day in small groups, especially during fog or other unfavorable weather conditions. However, the density of Ukrainian defenses and the urban environment nullify their attempts. Heavy equipment such as the MTLB gets lost and the infantry comes under fire. Enemy artillery, including precision-guided munitions, continues to support the assaults, but their effectiveness is limited due to the defenders' fortifications. Near Chasiv Yar, breakthrough attempts are blocked by fortified defenses. Ukrainian forces have recently advanced north of Zalizniansky on the approaches to Chasiv Yar. Russian troops have been launching attacks from all sides around the city, from the north, southeast, west, and south. At the same time, the defense of Ukrainian forces within the city itself remains strong and effective, making it difficult for the enemy to advance. Russian airborne forces units are operating here, as well as special drone operators from various formations, including the Akhmat group. In the Toretsk direction, the situation is as follows. Russian forces have intensified assault operations in the Toretsk area, attacking to the north, specifically Delivka, to the east, namely Druzhba, and to the south, Nova Poltavka and Zaria. They are also attempting attacks to the west, at Shkerbinivka and Popiv Yar. Despite claims of advances, no confirmed progress has been recorded. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced the capture of Stara Mykolaiivka, although the Institute for the Study of War confirmed this fact back on May 25th. Elite units are operating in this direction, including GRU special forces and artillery formations. The current phase of combat operations demonstrates a trend toward a creeping war, with advances made by small groups under the cover of drones and artillery, taking into account the terrain and dense defenses. On both sides, there is extensive use of unmanned aerial vehicles, reconnaissance, strike, and FPV drones. This significantly changes the nature of warfare, where precision, mobility, and stealth become decisive factors for success. According to the Institute for the Study of War, despite certain tactical gains by Russia, none of the attempts at encirclement or breakthrough have yielded operational results so far. Ukrainian forces are demonstrating the ability to hold back the offensive by employing modern reconnaissance tools and counterstrikes deep behind enemy lines.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Right now, the enemy is advancing in several directions at once. The front is boiling. FPV drones have started reaching as far as the Dnipropetrovsk region. Things are tense on the Zaporizhzhia section of the front. The Russians are wiping Orikhiv off the face of the earth. The Russian army is on a path to death. More details about the operational situation on the front line are coming up in the following report.
Right now we are in a dugout on the Donetsk front, actually even closer to the Dnipropetrovsk region. This section of the front is getting hotter every day, and you can physically feel how the front is getting closer to here. We felt it ourselves when several glide bombs forced us to take cover in the dugout. Right now we're in the dugout so as not to give away our position and help the enemy, but earlier we came down here because of the threat of aerial bombs. They've already fallen here 3 times, and there was another time we came down because enemy Shaheds were flying in this direction and attempts were being made to shoot them down. The situation here is further complicated by the fact that enemy FPV drones have started reaching the Dnipropetrovsk region. Even those roads that previously seemed safe now pose a threat to our soldiers and civilians.
The guys who were heading to the LBS were hit by an FPV drone here, actually quite far from the line of contact. So this is also a kind of warning bell that maybe we need to step up our work somehow. They were wounded, they're not far from here, 15 minutes away from us. Basically, this shows that the front is getting closer.
Also, the day before, we managed to work in the Zaporizhzhia direction. In particular, we were in the city of Orikhiv. It's a city of stark contrasts. I'll just share my impression. The city is very badly damaged. These buildings have been destroyed for a long time, but more than 700 people still remain living in this city. And we witnessed how, in a city without even a water supply, people were watering flowers. It has taken on a kind of bandit-like desolate look. Also, some shops are still operating in the city, and there is a pharmacy. But in addition to continuing to plant and water flowers, they are now stretching anti-drone nets over the roads there. And this is one of the ways to at least somewhat protect people from the danger of drones. And this danger from drones is acutely felt all along the front line, both in Donetsk region and in Zaporizhzhia, where we managed to work. Natalia Nahorna, Lelia Belostotska, Volodymyr Parakhonsky, TSN 1+1, United News Marathon.
It's scorching hot on the Kupiansk front, like in hell. Russian troops are once again trying to cross the Oskil River, attempting to break through. But instead of a breakthrough, it turns into a survival quest. They are met by the Karadag warriors, harshly, precisely, and without mercy. Burning equipment, chaos, and panic. Our drone operators work with lightning speed. The chimney sweeps send them into black smoke one after another. Coming up in the story, the incredible and invaluable experience of Ukrainian defenders on the front line. Don't miss it.
The magazines fell out. The radio is screaming over there.
Recalling the past, heading out toward Oskil, north of Kupiansk. At dawn itself, the crews of Karadag's strike drones once again set out for combat positions.
In reality, there aren't many options for getting to or leaving the positions because we don't have that many soldiers here on the western bank of the Oskil, and this right here, you could say, at least guarantees speed. The guys are always ready to shoot down in short.
Look how they caught up.
The fiber optic wires from enemy drones glisten in the morning sun even far back in the rear. The hum in the sky only proves that the Muscovites strike not only with FPV drones and not only at the front line, but also bombard the supply routes to the front with heavy Shaheds.
Every night there are between 10 and 20 strikes on the near-rear areas consistently. Every night, yes, in this area, that is the nearby settlements, villages, towns.
The enemy near Oskil is constantly on the move, our National Guardsmen say. And every day on the western bank, they try to storm the Ukrainian defensive line.
Every day here it's constant. Infantry assaults ranging from a squad to a platoon. In May, the number of infantry noticeably increased, and now there's also support from motorcycles.
From the eastern bank, the Russians try to support every movement of their assault troops with heavy long-range weapons.
When they attempt an assault, the intensity of fire on the positions, especially targeting pilots and aerial reconnaissance, has become their top priority.
Artillery, glide bombs, drones.
And everything they can, everything possible. Quite often.
He knows exactly what he's talking about. More than once or twice, Russian shells have exploded at the positions of Bonus and his crews. For over 2 years as part of Karadag, he has been piloting and directing FPV drones at enemy positions. But now they have fiber optics.
These are the same drones, only their connection is not via radio signal, but through a fiber optic cable.
Is this an advantage in the current conditions?
Yes, of course. I think it would be an advantage in any conditions.
Since the 15th Brigade of the National Guard entered the sector in March, thanks in no small part to the precise work of the pilots, the advance of the Russians on the western bank of the Oskil has been almost completely halted. Instead, the fighting here remains extremely intense, as the Russians continuously send new assault groups forward.
The battles and assaults are, quite honestly, well, really intense, dramatic, and incredibly, exceptionally action-packed. We try to repel them as effectively as possible.
Their comrades have nicknamed them chimney sweeps, because this crew from the 15th National Guard Brigade is highly effective at detecting and eliminating enemy infantry. The enemy often hides in the huge pipes running alongside the roads.
Sometimes they even cross the field one by one. Most likely they're being guided by one of their drones. If he manages to get there, he settles down somewhere, hides.
And
It's hard to watch.
This is all on the western bank. And here, only infantry is operating. There is no armored equipment here, and just like along the entire front in the Kupiansk direction, the Russians have started to use motorcycles more actively for assaults.
Now, their assaults are more often carried out on motorcycles, but before it was mostly infantry. They would come in small groups. And now their thing is to storm positions using motorcycles.
The main forces of the Russians in this sector are concentrated on the eastern bank, north of Kupiansk. The Oskil River, Bonus agrees, seriously slows down the enemy, but doesn't stop them completely.
They've tried to cross it, so to speak, and the infantry swims across in boats, and they've tried to get equipment across too. There was a pontoon bridge. Mostly it doesn't work out for them. We don't let them. We try to stop them right there as soon as possible.
Just the other day, Bonus's crew located and struck an enemy tank on the eastern bank.
At first, we thought it was an artillery piece that was hit. We flew in, took a look, peeked inside, and saw a tank.
That was one of their first launches with the new drones. On this day, fellow scouts relayed the coordinates of a target among the ruins of one of the occupied villages on the western bank of the Oskil.
The target was a basement with enemy personnel. All right, good. Let's get to work. It's taking off. Give it a try. It's up.
Searching for a target while flying on fiber optics, say the pilots of Karadag, is no different from hunting for a target with a regular FPV drone.
That's right. We're the first street of the villages. Here, the beginning of the street. Another target waiting. We're getting our bearings. In the middle, right? We're approaching, ready to begin.
However, only a drone on fiber optics, controlled by a skilled pilot, can descend below the radio horizon right down to the ground a dozen kilometers from the launch site and precisely approach the target.
Ready to engage. And it's flying inside. Didn't hit directly inside. Another mission completed. There was an explosion. That's a plus.
That was just the beginning of another day in the liberation war on the Kupiansk front. But now there is one less group of Russian infantry in the defense zone of the Karadag warriors that will definitely not be going on the offensive. From the Kupiansk section of the front in Kharkiv region, Alexander Motorny, Oleksiy Osachuk, and Serhiy Shportilo, TSN 1+1. Marathon United News.
That's all from me for now. I was with you, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more scorching news from the front in our next broadcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon.